As we've been reporting this week, the cost of living squeeze is really putting pressure on Australian families, like Gemma Bates-Smith, who works 4 jobs with her husband to afford the rising cost of childcare, groceries, petrol and power bills, not to mention her mortgage. The RBA's interest rate hikes have seen her mortgage repayments go up by around $200 a week. Her story's not unique. There are tens of thousands of families struggling just like her to put food on the table to feed their children. And it's no wonder that more Australians are turning to charities for help. We heard yesterday from Food Bank that there's a direct correlation between rising interest rates and the number of requests they're receiving for food. And some of those requests coming for schools. We heard about school students going to toilet breaks to rummage through the bags and the lunch boxes of other kids to get food because they're being sent to school just without any lunch. Well, Sam Crosby, the Executive Director of the charity St Vincent de Paul, New South Wales, joins me now. Sam, thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry it's to talk about such a sad topic. You are a charity, you help homeless people, you help families. Are you seeing this trend as well of more people and some of their middle-income families not being able to afford food? This
year was a record year for Vinnie's, this financial year just gone past. We had 30% new people, or 30% of the people accessing our services were new. They'd never accessed a homelessness service, a housing service, a charity in any kind. And that was a record from the year before, where it was 25%. The need is growing at an exponential rate.
And are you seeing that it's moving into people who do have jobs, but that money just isn't able to stretch anymore because of inflation and the cost of living, the cost of groceries, power bills, petrol, everything's just so much more expensive?
Absolutely. It's the absolute ordinariness of the people is what hits you when you go to meet these people. They're not... You know, obviously we help homeless people, we have homeless services, but when you go to do average calls on average households, a lot of the families have 1 or 2 or 3 jobs between the couples, and they just get their car breaks down or their rent increase goes up or something just goes wrong and they just can't manage it. And they take what I think is a very brave decision and they call us, and in most cases we're able to help. I think it's a tragedy that for every person that calls us, there's another half a dozen or a dozen that they just don't have they're not brave enough to ask for help, for whatever reason. They just can't come forward and we can't help them.
You can understand that. I mean, if people have jobs and, particularly men really feel that pressure of providing for their family, and then if they can't do that anymore, they shoulder that burden themselves and it can lead to depression.
I was in Lismore during the floods and I spoke to a guy who'd just lost everything. His whole house had been washed away. And I said, we've got a service over here, come and help, we'll get you some cash. And he says, I don't need Vinnie's help yet, I'm okay. And I thought, my God, you've just lost everything. But he's,
you do need our help.
You do need our help. But he was thinking, well, there's other people out there who need it more than me. He didn't want to take that on himself. And I think that's a really common story.
So sad. And what about this that we heard yesterday from Food Bank, that there are children that are being sent to school without food? I mean, their parents wouldn't want to be sending them to school without food, but they can't afford it. And then there's reports from the schools that children are, going to a toilet break and then stealing food from other kids' lunches because they're so starving.
Yeah. Food is overwhelmingly the thing that we help with families most. We have a food truck, or we have food vans that go around to different parts of the state, really. They're all over now. And it's pretty common for, generally mums will come down and we have sandwiches lined up, most of them, and they'll take 5 or 6 or 7 sandwiches, and they're not taking it for themselves, they're taking it for their kids for school lunches the next day. In most cases where we can get a van within a week, that van will be oversubscribed. So there'll be 100 people or 200 or 300 people at that van within a week.
And is it something you're looking at doing for schools, or you haven't quite got there yet?
We do a bit of work for schools, but there's no end to the need out there.